On today's video, I'm going to give you a big update on what's going on with the Mustang behind me. We were actually building this car and prepping it to take it to the Middle East to compete in the OIDC. Unfortunately, some things happened, some difficulties in shipping the car and some other little things on both sides made that pretty much impossible to happen on time. And I really felt like it was important for me to have this car there for me to compete in, because it would be the first time I was competing in a championship since FD, but unfortunately it didn't work out. But what did happen was this car was extremely upgraded, made to its, I wouldn't say final form, but its full competition form, and I'm going to show you guys through that today. At Drift HQ, and we partnered up with GearMotive to put one of their sequential gearboxes in my Fox body. I'm about to double the value of my Fox body by putting this gearbox in there, but it's something that was needed, and it should be very close to a direct swap. I have a ZF320 in there. This case is ZF320, so it should go right in. I'm gonna have to modify the bell housing a little bit. Sorry, GearMotive, with your beautiful paint and everything on here. But for the starter that we run a Miata starter with an EcoBoost engine, an adapter plate. So basically, we'll use our GeMsport adapter plate, Miata starter, pop this thing in with a Comp 1 clutch, and then we're basically gonna put our Jubo on here, and everything else should install itself. Except the shifter. There's probably something I have to do with that. We'll figure it out.
Donnie, you good?
I have my head off the tire.
This is amazing, dude. Donnie, you're hired, bro. Although we're way past the 5 minutes for a clutch inspection.
Yeah.
Is it light?
Oh, I feel like it's even lighter than a standard ZF, to be fair. So underneath, ZF320. This actually was put in here as the fitment test transmission 4 years ago when we started building this, and it's still been okay. It makes some noise, but it works, and it has a huge hole in the bell housing that we JB welded up.
I can't even tell.
Yeah, you can't even tell. These cars have a big problem. These transmissions have a big problem with if you put the disc in backwards or have any issues, they weld themselves to the pressure plate. So at some point, somebody did that with this gearbox, so we ended up with it for free. So I'll take a free ZF, and it's been working for 4 years with 400 horsepower. GeMsport adapter plate, and then we have a DKM Comp 1 style clutch inside, and it's just a 6-puck ceramic aggressive unsprung clutch. And then we run a Jubo on the backside, E34 M5 one. They're a little thicker, a little more damping, last a little longer. And then, obviously, like we were saying with the bell housing that we'll have to modify, if you look here with the starter, we have to run an NC Miata starter. It's really the only one that will work with this. And it has a piece that protrudes into where the bell housing is. So basically, we just drill 2 holes so that they have strength, and then we connect them so that it doesn't crack and start going through the bell housing. It's been like that for 4 years, so pretty good so far. And then currently we have just an IRP shifter with lockouts on a really long shaft up top, and we're gonna have to switch that out as well, so that'll be cool. I'm excited to see what this car's like with a race car gearbox. So under the Fox body, EcoBoost, Panda Motorworks built motor, piston rod, and head package, and then GeMsport adapter ZF320, which is the same as what the GearMotive's based upon. The only things that will change is the shifter assembly, and I wanted to run the beefier input shaft to the gearbox, so it has a 420G input shaft. So I had to get a different disc for the clutch, but we'll still use the same pressure plate and all that stuff. So in theory, outside of the accessories for shifting it, it will be a complete bolt-on unit, and this is about an hour swap. Transmission is a little dirty.
A little bit. All that room.
Wow.
Not bad.
Sacks.
Sacks! My sack! It's been hanging on. This is from when they were cutting the hole. They sliced the input shaft. Look how trash this thing is.
Did all the play.
So they're not supposed to do that?
Well, they're supposed to have a little bit. But I was just saying, this thing's been taking the piss for a while, dude. Cool. So this is the ultimate I drive like a dickhead saver right here. You can drive as hard as you want if you have one of these, and it's very unlikely that you're going to break anything in your drivetrain. it sucks up a ton of harmonics, and it acts like a giant cushion when you dump the clutch, pull the handbrake, rip on everything hard. So basically I run them so that I don't have to think or worry about how hard I'm gonna dump the clutch, because it will always survive. When you get rid of these, you get a lot of bad harmonic through the gearbox, wears out the gearbox, and then on top of that, it basically takes away that cushion to abuse the drivetrain.
Just disc. Is that the
Bit
same
weird
disc?
wear, but
Is that the same disc you've been like beating everybody up with?
Yeah.
that sees a lot of grip.
That's the one that was in Canada?
That's why it wears that way. So it wears across, and then when it gets really hot, it wears the outsides of it. Because we try not to left foot brake a lot. We just slip the clutch a ton. My poor DKM supplies all my clutches, and they be hating me. But that clutch has been in there for a season, so pretty good.
But the car doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons, but in my FD car, we used to go through a clutch every day. So every Friday night at the track, we would switch a clutch, disc, pressure plate, everything. So it's good. It's good, like sizing down the weight, the power, and still having a car that's equally as fast as the FD car, because it's so much nicer on wearables. Okay, so one thing that we changed with this gearbox is the pressure plate, or the clutch disc. So this guy, spin this around, doesn't fit because it's got the much stronger 420G, larger spline.
It's also forged.
It's also forged. Dude, this gearbox is going to be on vacation the entire time it's in this car. If it's been living with a stock ZF and you put one of these in, talk about an upgrade. And then obviously these splines now, we'll hopefully go over it. Yeah, there we go. So we got DKM clutch for that. And that's all we're going to do is swap that disc. And then I have this one to go into one of my street cars. It's leftovers.
This
I was saying-
serviceability of this bearing is sick.
Yeah, it's sick. And it actually just comes right out too. Like you don't have to do anything crazy. The snap ring just holds it in place. It's nice.
That is wow.
Yeah, we were planning on swapping clutches and drivetrain shit all the time when we built this car. So when we talked to Gem Sport and they machined it, I was like, we need to get the bearing with a retainer on it, some sort of retainer.
What did that one?
So yeah, long skinny pin punch.
Check. 1, 2.
82 pounds, GearMotive.
GearMotive?
With a Jubo.
With the Rebo and everything.
Rebo,
Also, this
Jubo,
one
whatever.
probably
And then
has
how much
fluid
is
in
this one weigh?
59.
Nah, no chance, dude. Maybe?
Yeah, there we go. That's more realistic.
I was like, it should. They're 78. Last I weighed one. Dang.
Really?
So it's the exact same weight because the Jubo is definitely a
Yeah.
pound. That's sick. So like triple the strength, same packaging, and the same weight. I'm in.
Check. 1, 2.
You gotta celebrate.
Oh, you have a bit of
1, 2.
And
Yummy.
I think we need to change the...
No, that's good.
Thank you. I wanted to help you, but...
My hole's slightly bigger than the one you made, but...
I know. I was looking at the bracing and I was like, pretty close.
Donnie, overdoer.
Just cut.
Overachieving.
Of course.
Dude, that's the coolest part of this whole thing. Sight glass. Whoever's idea that was there, I'll take it.
Just keep saying that. I don't know what it means.
There she is.
Oh yeah,
Just
bud.
like that.
Shaloop, dude.
Lickety clack.
You see how tall that shifter's gonna be? Oh, that's perfect. What do you mean?
That's it. The first time the exhaust gets hot, it says. So, because my shifter rod is so long, that's what they say, I have to use this for right now. But it does go up in here and use this little lever to go into neutral and reverse. But unfortunately, at this current moment, this one is too short. It's obviously meant for E36. Gearbox install went really well. Basically, if this was an E36, this install would have been probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was an additional 2 hours of fabbing this shift spacer here because my shift lever rides inside of the car, and my trans tunnel needed a little massaging, but obviously it's in a Fox body. I doubt most people buying this are going to put it in a Fox body. But yeah, we're finished up now, and I'm going to use this to put it in reverse and go take it for a test. My car is so rickety that it's very loud. It's like everything's made out of like the smallest Sam steel ever, so the gearbox hits are super loud. But everything works, so it's good. Tomorrow we test for real. ECU's killing the power randomly, so I'm gonna pull a log, but the gearbox feels awesome. The ratios are really good. They're not as good for here, but I always have too short of a second, too long of a third for here, so it seems much better. Once we get this neutral thing on there, we'll be dialed. It doesn't take very much tension at all, just a little bit, so it's pretty good. I'm gonna go pull a log and then maybe I can really beat on it afterwards. So this gearbox, we finally got the reverse set up on it. You basically just pull on this lever and that will allow you to put it into neutral. So you go back to go into first, and then if you want to go back into neutral, you pull that. Otherwise it won't go, it won't let you. You pull the lever, it will let you. It's foolproof, can't miss a shift, works amazing. You're never gonna end up going into neutral on accident. That's a big plus. We did have to extend this, so the normal one will not have this coupler here. Main reason being I had to just basically get a bicycle cable because the one that they have was too short for how far back we have the shifter from the gearbox. Normally this linkage just goes to about here, and ours goes all the way to about there because the gearbox is and the motor is forward in the chassis where we sit really far back in the chassis. You can see this is the factory seat mount. So the seat is at least 6 to 8 inches back from the factory position. That's to get weight where we want it and also make the car comfortable to drive. The gearbox has been an absolute game changer. It installed in about an hour and a half plus 30 to 40 minutes to make the shifter box. You won't have to do that in your car if you have a BMW or a car that doesn't have the shift rail running over the top of it. So easy install. It's an exact identical replacement to a ZF gearbox. It bolts right up, uses the same clutch, same flywheel, same bearings, same pivot, same everything, same drive shaft, same jubo, same everything. So basically If you're any bit equipped to do a gearbox swap, you could put a sequential in your car pretty much immediately. There are a couple wires for the shifter selection, so you can see what gear you're in. Also, I believe there is a reverse wire on this as well. But for me, being a race car, the gear indicator would be nice. I need to do that. I'm going to wire it into the link dash. But everything else isn't really necessary. I don't need cut for shifting or any of that stuff. I don't want to accidentally bump the shifter and have it do the cut. So we don't run any sort of shift cut at all. Not really necessary. But yeah, I'm really excited about this gearbox. I've done 1,000+ shifts in it, and it's had 0 rejections. And I cannot say the same about most other sequential gearboxes that I've driven. And I've driven them all except, I think, the 6XD box. I've driven the Samsonis, I've driven the Hollinger, Albins, I've driven, I don't know, Weddell, which was like another company, which maybe was Albins. And I've driven some other HKS sequential. I've driven a bunch. And I can confidently say that this gearbox is the smoothest and easiest to actuate gears that I've ever driven. And it's 80 pounds all in. Most 4-speeds with a bell housing and all that stuff end up being 130 pounds or so. 80 pounds, 50 pounds lighter, and it's rated at like almost 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. So it's like, and that's what it's rated at. So you know it'll take more. But yeah, thanks GearMotive for hooking me up with this gearbox. It's given this car a new vibe and a new life for me. It's also made the gear split so much better, so I don't have to carry different ratio rear ends with me, because first gear is much longer and it stacks the gears a lot closer. So the gearing is literally perfect for every track mathematically, for at least when I'm driving. And it's so far held up to the power really, really well. I know this car is lighter and makes less power than the guys at Drift Masters that are running this gearbox. So I know that it's gonna live forever. Okay, so obviously mind its dirtiness, but we have a base wrap on here. There are no partners and are no livery because we were supposed to be finalizing that for the Middle East. Like I said, unfortunately that didn't happen, but we got new bumper, new grille, new front end. On the outside, we got Lexan front windshield that saved about 6.5 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the Middle East, if we were to break this windshield or at the track in glass, it's a pain in the ass to get one. Now we have one, which is really good. Obviously with the wrap going on here, continuing with the look, we were able to kind of finish up. We got a third brake light, finished rear window. One of the things that was important to me with this car was that it was always basically used for a thrash car and having fun with, and now outside of it being dirty, it's pretty presentable. Before we jump on the inside, underneath the hood, don't worry, my E36 leaks power steering fluid on it. Story checks out. BMW things. So under the hood, we've made massive improvements, and it may not look like there are massive improvements, but here's what happened. So Link has a new ECU that came out. It is a G5. It is a direct injection ECU, and it was loosely based around making the EcoBoost work. So we got a built engine in here now, piston rod motor. It was done by Panda Motorworks. It is insanely snappy. It makes really good power. It makes a good 500+ horsepower, almost 600, and make a good 500 foot-pounds of torque. At pretty low boost pressures, we can go even higher, but that's kind of where we decided to stop because we don't know the limitations of everything else behind it. So that's about 100 more horsepower than this car's ever made and 100 foot-pounds of torque more. And it does that because of this new precision bolt-on unit. So this is not the normal precision. This is their new test turbo, which I think probably by the time this video goes out, it'll be available. And this thing made all that power on like 26 pounds, and people run up to like almost 40. New carbon intake, so we did that, saved some weight, I think. Oh, and new DI pump from Nordstrom. And we already have the injectors in there. Let's see what else I forgot at this point. I think that's pretty much it in terms of the engine, but Panda Motorworks built motor, bigger turbo, more fuel, DI controller, and flawless 550 horsepower, and it's so strong. It's on at 3,000 RPM, like full bore. Another thing, if you've been following this build, that you may notice is how nice this interior is. So now we've got, obviously we've had our Recaros in here. They're the Profi SFIs, but now we have nice painted floor, finished interior. You guys probably saw in a previous video when we put the championship dash in there, and we just have everything really nice and finished inside. It was about 20 colors before, and now it's like I said, it's a really well put together setup. We got the rear bulkhead in, obviously our Bluetooth boombox, and yeah, just overall kind of reducing weight and making the car look a lot more polished. So underneath the car, we've also made some improvements. I'll jump down. My lift is covered right now. So basically, we've gone up to new two-way BC shocks with their updated canister. Don't mind my flashlight. We've basically redone all of the suspension links and all of the four-link to be all brand new parts. So that way our spare axle can be completely built out. We went back to a complete full titanium exhaust. We give a little zoom from Taycan with a muffler on the back, nice and quiet. Obviously I like quiet cars. So we've shaved about 18 pounds off of the exhaust itself, and the gearbox weighs exactly the same, which is really cool. And we'll show you the front real quick. You may have seen in a previous video that we switched over to FDF. We have been basically spending the last, I don't know, it's probably been about a year now, developing the full FDF Pro model that will be available very soon. We've been changing all the different knuckle geometry, KPI, fixing the problems that the Fox body has inheritably. So this kit is pretty much the best it could ever be and still be within rules of Formula Drift. So it could be better if we were able to relocate the shock really far out or something of that nature. But within the box that we basically have to work in, this thing has been developed to have the best steering feel, the most amount of angle, and make use of the Fox body solid axle the best it can, which is a big thing. So underneath, as you can see, sorry with the flashlight, we've got the full FDF kit. Don't mind the boots, they're off because we haven't set the toe yet. We went back with the two-way BCs up front with the new canister style. They have a lot better transition between compression and rebound, which is important. And then we have Detroit drifting sway bar with a flat blade for maximum angle. This is a double wall sway bar, so lots of stiffness, and it's really helped give back a high angle amount of side bite that this car has always lacked, which actually was a good thing when it had less power. But now that it has almost 600 horsepower, we can use that side bite to our advantage. Another thing with the 600 horsepower is we've switched out and gone to NT01 Nittos on the back in a 275. This tire is probably comparable to a lot of the Volino 08Rs that people are running. It's obviously a lower tread wear because they use a proper tread wear rating compared to Volino and some of the other tire companies. But this car on that tire is like unbelievable, the amount of grip it has. Like it could even take even more power with that tire on there. And then with the GearMotive gearbox, it's got enough strength to hold it. And obviously this car is kind of getting to its point where it's now not a full competition car, not an FD car, but it is probably surpassed my dreams and thoughts with this car. Originally, for me, this car was meant as a passion project to have fun. I really wanted to build an 8.6 Corolla that was crazy, but at the time with my Ford contracts and things, this made a lot of sense because it's right up the same alley, the same type of suspension, and with the new EcoBoost engine available, like making lots of power, it made a ton of sense to just build this out to be a super lightweight, long wheelbase kind of 8.6 type build. And it's really been there. So it's 2,370 pounds with me in it, I believe, and basically trim for a race. But the way we run it most of the time is right at about 2,450. And it's, like I said, it's a monster. 600 wheel, 2,400 pounds, and all the weight is right where we need it to be. If you enjoyed the video, obviously jump on, like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't, comment, let us know how we can improve. I'm always down to do what we can to give you guys good content. I do this content for you guys and to share information about what we're doing with our cars, our program, and everything we can. So you guys subscribing really does help get me be able to pitch partners to hopefully get budget. And if they're not interested in that, at least it gets some views, which it has some small amount of passive income to help us shoot this content and pay for editors and stuff. I'm really enjoying it, having fun. going down to a couple videos a month here instead of stacked every week. I know you guys want it, but for me, it's really tough to do. So I really appreciate it. As I make this transition into someone who is sharing the fun and excitement that we have going on with drifting, not so much competitive focus on racing. The goal here for me in the future and today is to grow drifting, give back to it whenever I can, and basically take this sport to the next level from someone who's been involved since the beginning, and that's kind of where my effort's been. It's really important. I love drifting. It's really important to be able to grow this sport and build cars that push the boundaries. This Fox body, the Porsche, even some of the other cars we're doing right now. I'm just really excited. This year's gonna be awesome. I have some really good news to share that's not drifting related, which is gonna be awesome. And we'll see how it goes. Coming soon. I'll see you guys. Thank you.